Today, we continue our evaluations of the Flames forward group, this time working our way through some quote unquote misfits.
You're Locked On Flames, your daily podcast on the Calgary Flames. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Locked On Flames. As always, I am your host, Jess Belmosto, and thank you so much for joining me. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's simple. Today, we are going to continue our player evaluations with, I guess, the third line, Morgan Frost, Yegor Sharangovich, and Joel Farabee. I find that this line is in need of a redemption season next year, and I think it's fitting that they're kind of all paired together. So we will dive into that and more on today's episode. Make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Flames wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. We're here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, your team every day. And let's talk about Yegor Sharangovich. We'll start with him because he's been with the Flames, and it feels a little mean to just dive right in on the new kids on the block. So, as we know, Sharangovich had a great 2023-2024 season, 30 goals. It was a career year for him. And then they signed him to a 5-year, $5 million a year contract last summer, which doesn't kick in until this upcoming season. So we have 5 more years of Yegor Sharangovich, and I don't know how to feel about that at the moment, especially after the way this season went. It just wasn't a good year for him. You know, the expectations were higher coming into this season. The expectations were certainly higher than they were when he was originally traded to the Flames. And, you know, going from 30 goals to 17 goals, 32 points over 73 games, people are right, like in their own right to be disappointed. Unfortunately, that big first year in Calgary kind of set those expectations higher. And it didn't bode well for Sharangovich. I think that he knew that he had a fantastic year and that he proved a lot of people wrong, but this season started off kind of on the wrong foot too, because he started the season injured. He didn't look all there, and I would say that for most of the season, I don't want to say he looked like a lost puppy out there, because that feels very dramatic, but he just struggled out there a lot, and he couldn't buy a goal at some points. The defensive liability he became just really not impressive, and it had people very concerned about these next 5 years. Because if this is your drop off after one good season, where on earth are we going to be after season 3 of the contract? So eventually he got scratched. I think the scratch happened too late. It just, he just dragged his feet. Huska, when it came to scratching him, but also Sharangovich. He dragged his feet trying to get anything going, but eventually he did heat up. I think a lot of people look at healthy scratching a player for punishment reasons, like for missing a team breakfast or a meeting or something, just for poor play, to jumpstart them. Like, that is what they need to get going. And it happened. He did start going again, but he was just inconsistent through the entire season. And some nights it was just you probably were better off having him scratched. It just wasn't good, and there's no real other way to put it. Um, one thing that did happen was that he, of course, heated up down the stretch there, which is obviously good to see. But it was too little, too late. It wasn't enough to even hit 20 goals, but it was good to see that kind of end on a more positive note. He did um he ended the season injured as well. He broke something against the Kings. So I would say that, he did struggle a lot this year. And it was just a down year for everyone, really. And except for Huberto and Kadri, of course, in the forward group. But I mean, what would I give him this for this season? I would say a C, not giving him a C plus, and certainly not giving him a C minus. I feel actually, you know what, C minus feels a little more fair. Um, and that I'm and some I feel like that might be a little generous depending on, you know, which chunk of the season you're looking at. I obviously hope that he comes back well rested and is ready to play and stays healthy, because I think that all of these players that we're going to talk about today are 100% worthy of a bounce back, and I think they're capable of bouncing back. I think that what Sharangovich specifically needs is consistency. Are you playing him at center or are you playing him on the wing? I think that he is a player, like all hockey players, truly, that just do best when there's consistency. And to me, that's what we're going to need to see from him. But coming up next, we are going to talk about one half of Frostbee and the only in-season trade that happened for the Flames this year on Locked On Flames. The NBA and NHL playoffs are here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you will get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. I like how easy FanDuel is to use and to navigate, as well as deposit and withdraw my funds. From 3-pointers to steals to assists, FanDuel has so many ways to bet on your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine your live prop bets into a same game parlay for a chance to win big. Maybe tomorrow you place a bet on the Leafs. I don't know. Do they close it out tomorrow night? Do they not? Who knows? Don't miss out. Head to fanduel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. Thank you so much for making Locked On Flames part of your day. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. We're here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, your team every day. And let's talk about Morgan Frost. Morgan Frost is a player that I am honestly so glad finally got traded. I feel like he has spent 3 or 4 years of his 6-year career, NHL career, being talked about at the trade deadline or in the offseason. When is he going to be traded? Is he going to be traded? What's it going to take for Morgan Frost to find a new place? Like, I didn't know if it was actually ever going to happen, but it did. Happened mid-season, came over in the trade, and obviously with Joel Farabee, who we'll talk about a little bit, traded for Andrei Kuzmenko and Jacob Pelletier. Just an unreal trade that unfolded mid-Flames game. And we can revisit that later this summer. But he had 11 goals through 42 games with Philly. He was a -11. I don't think you can necessarily judge his season, regardless of which half, without looking at the bigger picture. Like I mentioned, he has constantly been involved in trade rumors. Morgan Frost this, Morgan Frost that. And the fresh start finally happened for him. And I think that that has to be a monkey off his back. Because when you're just waiting for something like that to happen, and your name's constantly involved in those rumors, you have to be unsettled and just kind of uneasy and walking on eggshells. It is probably hard to feel fully, I don't want to say fully committed to your team, but I mean, any day you could walk in and have them, pull you aside and say, hey, today's the day you're getting traded. Thanks for all you've done. Pack your stuff. You're going to Calgary. Like, for that to finally be a thing of the past for him, I can't even imagine how good that must feel. But so far in his time in Calgary, it has been a little bit of an interesting start. He said in his media exit interviews that he felt like when he was playing some of his best hockey when he arrived, like right after the trade, which is great. He had 3 goals and 12 points over that time span. I do think that obviously you're looking for more from these guys. But I think you have to remember that he didn't really have time to get settled in. Next season will probably be better because he won't be living out of boxes and dealing with this unfamiliar territory that is Calgary and navigating a whole new system. Speaking of which, he is a restricted free agent this summer. So the Flames have the opportunity to extend him or not. They can just say, hey, hit the road, you're UFA. But I do think that the Flames look to extend him. I think that Frost is a player that fits the mold. He is young. He is a center, and he can score. Is it going to be consistent? Maybe not, but we don't know. We don't know the true potential of Morgan Frost. And I don't think there was necessarily much of an effort to showcase that and kind of find that in Philly. I think that everyone was just so focused on finding him a new place that they did not care. They didn't care what his ceiling was. Not to mention the team was rebuilding and there wasn't really much positive to focus on. It was just kind of lackadaisical, just kind of, blase, floating through floating through the organization and really missing out on prime opportunities. But I feel like you're going to see better hockey from him once again. It's very similar to Sharangovich, where it's like they need consistency and structure. And, hockey players are very superstitious and ritual oriented. I just think that, once a player is settled in, like we literally just talked about this with Blake Coleman and Jonathan Huberdeau. Once they're settled in, they get their routine and not ripped away from everything they've known for the last 6 years. I think that it'll do wonders for both Frost and Farabee. But yeah, I have a feeling that the Flames are really going to invest in pushing, in not necessarily pushing Frost, but getting Frost to that next level to be the center that he's capable of being. Like, I don't think that he had his his time in Philly. I feel like there was just more that could have been done to really bring out stronger skills and characteristics in him. Again, just my opinion. I don't have all the answers, but I do think that the Flyers weren't really invested in Frost. Is that a hot take? I think that might be a hot take. But overall, I would rate Morgan Frost's time with the Flames a B. I don't necessarily think it was bad, but I don't think it was overly good. But you saw flashes of what could become very important and useful to this lineup. And just thank God we have another young center. That's really like, thank you, Craig Conroy. A lot of us are still disappointed that Jacob Pelletier is no longer a Flame, but at least you brought us a young center. Coming up next, we are going to talk about the second half of this trade, and that would be Joel Farabee. Coming up next here on Locked On Flames. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out with me today on Locked On Flames. Make sure you're following me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Jess Belmosto. Joel Farabee is very similar to Morgan Frost in the sense of their names constantly being involved in the trade rumor mill. And I think, obviously because they have such a close, bond and have established that over the last few years in Philadelphia, coming over to Calgary together, a bonded pair type stuff, but I think is good. I think both of them, it's not an entirely unfamiliar situation. I think that Farabee is another player that can crawl back to where he was as a goal scorer. And I would say that he is definitely a middle six player. I don't think that he, at least from what we've seen, he is not a fourth line player. Joel Farabee should not be playing on your fourth line. But I also don't necessarily see him currently as one of the Flames' top line players. I think that he complements the middle six very well. And hopefully, with a little bit of some roster shaking up and adjustments, the Flames are able to find line mates that really complement him. I think it's possible that we do see more from him next season. I think that it's very likely that we see him and Frost really settle in and look comfortable, and it translates to the ice, to their performance on the ice as well. This might be a controversial take, potentially, but I do feel, Farabee kind of reminds me of Mangiapane in a way. I think that they're both, good depth forwards, but maybe make a little more money than someone else in their position may make. Because honestly, all these players deserve every dollar, like the last down to the dime of what they make. But it does feel like a little bit of a stretch with, I believe he's at $5 million, which, if you're only putting up not even 20 goals a season, I think that is that is a tough look. But I do think that Huska and really the Flames front office as a whole are going to make it a point to really, nurture and foster a good environment to bring out the best in Farabee. I think because he has longer term on his contract, that you are going to have to make the most of it. And Joel Farabee isn't a bad hockey player, but I don't think he's a bad hockey player. I think he's a fine hockey player. He's a good hockey player. But 3 goals in 31 games is not going to do it for you. and you can look at this like you look at Frost. Traded mid-season, was likely walking on eggshells leading up to that moment, and living out of boxes. Probably not literally, but not having like a truly established home base when you get plucked from Philly and dropped in Alberta. But I think that with a little bit of time and patience, you could see Joel Farabee as a 20-goal scorer again. I truly believe that. And I don't think it's super outlandish to say. I was looking at his stats from previous years, and he had 22 goals in 2023, 2024. Not that long ago. And then 20 goals back in 2020, 2021. That is a bit of a difference, but I do feel like you can get him back to even like the team, like 15, 20 range. I think that you're going to be able to get there. He is not your fourth line player. I think you need to figure out a way to put him on, the second or third line to, again, complement the players, but also bring out his capabilities. I think the last few games where we saw him on the fourth line was, I would honestly say, kind of discouraging. I thought he played well, but it's not hard to look good when you are playing with a team's fourth line. So I think that his challenge will be finding a home somewhere in that middle six. If I had to guess, I would say it's likely going to be the third line. But if the Flames decide to, do some funky roster moves and lineup changes, I would say it wouldn't be a bad idea to put him on a line with Coleman and Backlund. But I really want to see a line like him on Connor Zary's wing. I think that would be good. I think we need to see more of Connor Zary at center, and getting Farabee with players that have speed and good shots might help him out a bit. If I had to grade his season with the Flames, I would say a B. It's kind of the same reason as Frost. I feel like you have, there's a lot of potential there. I don't think the ceiling is ridiculously high, but I feel like there is opportunity for the Flames to pull more out of him. And why not? It feels like the opportunity is there. So let's take advantage of it. You traded for these guys. Let's really invest in the organization and the players, and especially ones you are trading for. So I'm looking forward to their performances next season. Hopefully they all enjoy a nice off season full of rest and recovery. Make sure you are subscribed to Locked On Flames wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. We are here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, your team every day. And I will be back tomorrow as we talk about the Flames' fourth line and maybe some more news.